He is considered one of the greatest investors of all time. He's also the man behind one of the greatest financial books in history, Hot Commodities. It's always a pleasure to have Jim Rogers here on Stansberry Investor. Jim, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again.
Well, Daniela, I'm pleased to be here, but don't do introductions like that. I'm just a simple person, please.
Well, like I've always said, you are simple, and that what makes you even more appealing, Jim, because you've always stayed humble throughout your success. But I'm very happy because the last time we spoke was about 6 months ago. So it's a really good midpoint touch base here. A lot has happened, and I just want to catch up with you. But I wanted to start with probably the biggest news this week of Tesla taking a big scoop of Bitcoin. It's very interesting, following in the footsteps of Michael Saylor behind MicroStrategy. I guess my question to you is, Jim, what do you think of this revolution, or evolution, as some people call it, of executives looking to Bitcoin?
Well, I repeat to you what I've said before. I have never bought or sold any crypto. I wish I'd bought the right one. The right ones, you know. I mean, many of them have disappeared and gone to zero. We all read about the success stories. We don't read about the hundreds or probably thousands by now that have disappeared and gone to zero. And yeah, I know people who are doing extremely well and making a lot of money and having a lot of fun. I'm not one of them. We'll see how it ends.
But, you know, yes, there's investors who are doing well, but the movement of CEOs, I mean, do you think we could see other companies like Apple, Netflix turning to Bitcoin?
The more people who join in, the bigger the price is going to be, the higher the price is going to be. It's a very simple equation. How it's all going to end, I have a different view, but in the meantime, I'm not going to rain on their parade. I'm not even at the parade. So more power to them as long as they get out in time.
As you know, people love comparing Bitcoin to gold, and many people view Bitcoin as a great vehicle for wealth preservation. More so than gold. How do you see it, Jim?
Well, I hardly see how it's a wealth preservation. It's only been around a short period of time. The people who bought it right are making money and creating wealth. I'm not sure that Bitcoin hasn't stood the test of time, but the test of hard times. If you're talking about wealth preservation, we will see. My view, as I think you remember, is that if Bitcoin becomes successful as money, which the advocates say, then the government's going to outlaw it because they don't want to lose the monopoly. They don't want the competition. They want the control. Money is going to be on the computer, Dan. It already is in China. You can't take a taxi in China with money, with renminbi, you can't try to buy an ice cream with Chinese money. So it's already happening in many countries. China is certainly ahead of the US. But the U.S. is studying, figuring out what to do with how to do computer money. All money is going to be on the computer, but I would suspect it's going to be government money. They don't want to lose control.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw even the IMF alluding to a new Bretton Woods moment, but not one backed by gold. You know, they're speaking of a digital currency. And as you say, we already see China testing out a digital yuan, the euro, expected to roll out a digital euro. You know, it is a form of government control, right? Because they'll know more about how we're spending the money, where we're going.
And, you know, they love it. First of all, they don't have to print it. Money costs a lot of money. You have to transport it, print it, guard it, account for it. If it's all on the computer, it's very, very simple. And they know, Daniela, they know everything you do, and they love that. I mean, I hate it, of course, but they'll call you up and say, Daniela, you've been feeding your babies too much milk this month. Calm down. You know, they'll know everything we all do, which they love.
I want to get your thoughts on the Reddit craze. What did you make of the way the people are positioning it? Is this David versus Goliath situation that has happened of the people taking down Wall Street and exposing the ugly underbelly of Wall Street? What did you make of it?
Well, all of that's a little bit absurd. I mean, selling short is not the ugly underbelly of anything. It's been around for hundreds of years. It's a highly respected and necessary part of the financial markets to have liquidity and to have credibility. So, you know, the people, Daniela, you know as well as I do, everybody needs to sell newspapers. Everybody needs to get eyeballs. And so they write good stories. I'm not sure it was a mob more than the little man taking down some evil plutocrat. It was a mob that got together, and the hedge funds. I'm still surprised that they sold so much short. I mean, I've seen short squeezes all my life, and everybody always the first thing I look at is how many shorts are there, because then if there are too many shorts, I'm not going to sell something short because I know I'm liable to a squeeze, and I don't know them, so I don't know. I don't know how they made got into such a position, but then smart guys said, let's do a short squeeze. They've been short squeezes for hundreds of years, and they did it, and they were successful for a while. Now the government is looking at it. The government doesn't have to get in, Daniela. It's self-regulating. Enough people have lost money by now that you don't have to worry about new controls, new regulations. It'll take care of itself.
I find that really interesting. It's a new perspective I'm hearing, Jim, because you're right. The media did depict it like, the small guys versus the ugly hedge fund monsters. And it's interesting to hear you say that what hedge funds are doing is just normal part of the game. It's been there for history. It's not something like people are calling it manipulation, what the hedge funds were doing.
Wait, selling short is manipulation? Since when? Daniela, the manipulators were the mob. The mob said, let's have a short squeeze. That's manipulation. It's pretty clear and simple. It's legal. They didn't do anything that I know of. They didn't do anything illegal. But the manipulation were the guys having the short squeeze, all getting on the internet and saying, buy it, buy it, buy it. I mean, the hedge fund guys are clearly smart, except for the fact that they overextended themselves. I mean, this company, from what I can see, was a dead company. I mean, the fact that the stock went to $300 for a company which is basically out of business because some people got together and manipulated the stock and squeezed it. Why does that make the hedge funds evil? The hedge fund guys were smart and did their homework and knew what they were doing, except they got overextended, of course. The mob is going to lose a lot of money in this because that company's not worth $50, much less $300. It was $8 before. It's going to go back and probably lower.
Absolutely. Jim, we always love getting advice from you. Last time we spoke, you liked Indian tourism, agriculture. Of course, you like gold. Has anything changed for you or new sectors of opportunity that have opened up here for you?
Well, silver's better. Silver's still cheaper. I mean, I own both. I own both, and I will be buying more of both, but not now. I'm waiting for the correction, if there's a correction. But I will buy silver, and I'll buy more silver. Silver's down 45% from its all-time high, Daniela. Gold is near its all-time high. Stocks in many countries are near their all-time high.
There's a lot of talk of, triple-digit silver, $100 silver, especially with initiatives like the Green New Deal. Do you see that scenario playing out, Jim?
Well, I do know that the world is moving more and more towards electric cars, whether we like it or not. And electric cars use, for instance, 5 times as much copper as they use in a regular car. So there's going to be more demand, and silver, of course, is used a lot in many of the new applications. Solar energy uses silver. So I'm optimistic about many commodities going forward. I'm still buying agriculture. I see the cheapest area the cheapest asset class in the world. I mean, bonds are in a bubble. Property in many cities is in a bubble. Stocks are near all-time highs. So commodities are still the cheapest asset class I know.
And I know one good rule of thumb you taught me, Jim, personally, many, many years ago, is you like to buy gold under 1,000, under 900 preferably. What would be the mark for silver then? Under what price?
Well, yes, I certainly would like to buy silver under 10. But Danielle, I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime again. No, I don't have a price for gold or silver right now. I let the market usually tell me what to do. When I like despair, when I see despair or people giving up on something, then I will probably buy more silver, more gold. But there's certainly not despair in either of those markets right now.
You mentioned the stock market bubble. This is something we've obviously spoken about in the past, Jim, and how you prepare for it. I had one guest on this week saying we could see it as early as April. And
See the bubble pop?
yes.
Yeah, we can. That's not a bad observation at all. I mean, I have no idea. Again, I try to play it as I go along. I'm still buying shares in some country, not in the US, that you can see the bubble forming. I mean, Danielle, I've been to this movie before. It's not my first rodeo. I know how it's where you see new players come in. The whole thing with Bitcoin is another sign of that. The short squeeze we just had, massive numbers of new people coming into markets. It's all happened before. It all plays out more or less the same way in the end. And in the end, of course, it pops. And a lot of people lose a lot of money.
What kind of correction could you see? 40%, 50%, 30%? What type?
Oh, no, this time, Daniela, in 2008, we had a serious financial problem in the markets because of too much debt. Daniela, since 2008, the debt has gone up huge amounts everywhere, all over the world. The debt is the highest in recorded history. The next bear market is going to be the worst in my lifetime and the worst in your lifetime, 50, 60s. I mean, some stocks will go down 80 or 90%. That's what always happens. I mean, it's not some kind of doomsday. It's just the way these things work. It's just like telling you that this is a bubble, a classic bubble developing. It's the same that's happened many times. Go back and read about, and they always end the same way. I mean, we're not making we're making new history, but we're not inventing the wheel here. We're not inventing bubbles, and we're not inventing pops. They've always popped.
This guest that alluded to a huge April correction, 40% April correction, said there's no place to hide, not even gold, not Bitcoin, not gold. The only thing he sees safe is cash and 30-year bonds, 30-year treasury bonds. What's safe for you?
I never use the word safe in the investment world. I've been around long enough.
Some place to hide.
Okay, something maybe less dangerous or more safe than others. Well, the only place to hide, of course, is selling short if you know what you're doing, or cash. But you have to have the right cash. You know, in 2007 and 8, a lot of people saw problems coming and they went into cash. A lot of them went into Icelandic krona. And Iceland went broke. You know, so they lost a huge amount of money going into cash. You got to get the right cash too. U.S. dollars. If you're going to ask me which cash, I would say U.S. dollar for the next turmoil.
Jim, finally, I want to get your thoughts on this Fed game of chess we're almost seeing play out. Janet Yellen, as we know, former Fed head, now Treasury Secretary, Mario Draghi, formerly of the ECB, now the Italian PM. Do you think this is an interesting move of these Fed heads becoming more and more vocal and now in the government?
Well, it's not good for you and me. It's not good for our kids. I assure you of that. There's this, they all work together. They all know each other. They all think the same way. You now have the Secretary of the Treasury in the US, who was a former head of the central bank. I mean, this is all absurd. And they all believe in printing money, and they all believe in borrowing money, and they all believe in spending money. I don't like it. I'm not of that sort, but I'm not the Treasury Secretary, fortunately. Fortunately for me, and probably for them too.
You're joining us from Singapore. Can you tell us a little bit about the situation there in terms of reopenings, what the vibe is like?
Well, it's a lot more reopening. Restaurants are open, shops are open. I mean, there's still a lot of controls. You have to check in, you have to do all of this stuff. Places close at 10:30, cannot have alcohol after 10:30. There are still restrictions. It's hard to go anywhere because there's nowhere to go. You know, most countries are either closed or they have quarantines when you get there. And even if there were, not many flights. So in that sense, Singapore is like many other places. It's at least opening up, but there's not a lot to go outside of Singapore.
Jim, finally, let's wrap with, given the current financial and political environment, just 3 tips you would give all our investors and listeners watching.
Well, I would say watch Stansberry Investments. That's all you need to do. Watch
That's it.
Stansberry.
Just tune into Daniela's show here at Stansberry Investor.
Yes, watch Daniela. You get all the answers. I mean, if I were, I told you I will probably be buying some more. I will be buying some more commodities, maybe when we get off this show. I will certainly do that. I will probably buy more Russian stocks probably today. And I guess I'm not going to buy more Japanese ETFs, but the head of the central bank in Japan buys Japanese ETFs every day. I own Japanese ETFs because he's got a lot more money than I do, Daniela. And the Japanese stock market is still down 30 or 30% from its all-time high. I would suspect the Japanese stock market might make a new high, or go back to its old highs, which was in 1990. You weren't even born when the Japanese stock market made its previous high, and it may well go back to that. So and America's near its all-time high. So I would prefer to buy Japan than the US at this point.
Jim Rogers, I know it's late there. I appreciate you coming on and giving me some of your time today.
Well, I'm going to the disco.
Let's go. Let's go party. All right. Jim Rogers joining me from Singapore. Thank you for watching Stansberry Investor. We'll have much more for you, so be sure to stay tuned to stansberryinvestor.com, and we'll have much more for you coming up. Follow us on all our social media channels. Thanks for watching. I'm Daniela Cambone.